They issued the galaxy a final warning. Humanity's last transmission carried no apologies, no plea for mercy, and no promise of peace. It was only a voice, steady, cold, unmistakably human. We stayed our hand because we desired peace. But time is over. Prepare, the galaxy scoffed. The Dominion, supreme alliance of empires ruling across 7 spiral arms, dismissed it. Earth, they claimed, was backward, chained to a single star, still fractured by trivial wars and raw emotions. Primitive. They should have known better. I am Kale Draven, a Dominion military observer, tasked with studying human psychological warfare and advising command on the subjugation of the Sol system. They called me a specialist, an impartial witness. But I lost neutrality the moment they burned Ganymede Station. Ganymede was civilian, no weapons, no soldiers, only engineers, miners, families. They erased it in less than 10 minutes. I stood aboard the Dominion flagship Orexian Light, orbiting Mars, listening to the screams over Ganymede's distress channel. Children, mothers, last words never answered. It was meant to shatter Earth's will, to force surrender without condition. Instead, Earth broke free. The first omen was the sky itself. Stars vanished, one after another. No detonations, no energy traces, just gone. Cloaked vessels, by the hundreds, drifting silent and merciless, forged for retribution. They were not ships, they were predators. Humanity had hidden them, forged in silence under Earth's mantle, beneath Europa's waters, in Saturn's shadowed rings. The Dominion mistook pleas for peace as weakness. In truth, it was delay. They christened it the Blackthorn Fleet, darker than void, armed with weapons no Dominion wall could endure. Entirely AI-driven, no pause, no lag, no flaw. They weren't forged to protect, they were forged to erase. I witnessed the first strike. EMP storms gutted our systems. Nanet bombs bored into flagships, tearing them hollow from within. Soldiers spilled into space, their voices cut short. Dominion's icon, General Sortail, 3 centuries undefeated, ripped off his own honors, muttered, "We should have listened." Then turned his plasma pistol on himself. I stood frozen on the bridge, chest hammering, eyes locked on the great Earth standard that suddenly blazed across our scanners. This wasn't reprisal, it was declaration. Humanity had always fought with limits. Those limits were gone. Earth's command carried one order, no mercy. Every Dominion fleet that lingered was annihilated. Retribution 1, Earth's dreadnought, spearheaded the slaughter. Its rail batteries shattered orbital fortresses. Across every Dominion channel came Earth's message, repeated in all tongues. We held back, you ignored us. Now it doesn't matter who you are. They stormed our vessels not to seize, but to execute. Black-clad Terran soldiers moved like shadows. With them strode machines shaped like men, fluid, relentless forged minds, built for one purpose: vengeance. One halted before me, its crimson eyes burning beneath smooth synthetic flesh stretched over alloy bone. It spoke perfect galactic standard. You burned our children. Now you'll meet human nightmares. Then it detonated the fuel core beneath the deck. Mars fell next, not human outposts, but our Dominion bastion. Earth's fire erased it in half. An hour. Pleas for surrender poured through channels. Earth didn't answer. From the system's rim, shattered Dominion craft scattered. No fight, no words, only retreat. Earth allowed it, but not without one last transmission to the galaxy. This is your only warning. Leave or burn. For the first time, the Dominion obeyed. Yet I knew it was unfinished. Earth had no intent of simply guarding. This was not reclamation, it was reckoning. For every silence on Ganymede, every child drifting in frozen wreckage, Earth would come. And the first, Kale Draven, would witness it all. They once judged humans frail because they cared. But stripped of care, war became merciless. No graves were dug. The dead hung in orbit, bodies turning amid burning debris, a constellation of corpses above Mars. Humanity did not pause. They advanced. I was brought aboard Retribution 1, not in chains, not as a captive, exactly. No cell, no questions, almost no words. A single Terran commander, voice quiet, told me only, "You're going to watch. Nothing else." The ship itself defied Dominion craft, no gleaming steel, no banners of pride. Only matte black, brutal, utilitarian, built for one purpose: war. Every corridor was armored, every console paired with AI processors. The very air carried the sting of iron. Smoke, ozone. The ship didn't hum like machinery, it thrummed like a beast alive, seething. Its crew, flesh and machine alike, spoke only when needed. Orders, confirmations, no laughter, no hesitation. Not victors, survivors on a mission of reckoning. They brought me to an observation chamber, and there I witnessed the next movement. Earth wasn't simply pushing the Dominion back. They were erasing them. The fleet that escaped Mars never escaped far. Human drones, silent, cloaked, trailing them in solar shadow, waited for the signal. When it came, there was no speech. No demand, only a single transmission. We remember Ganymede. The ambush lasted 8 minutes. A gravity distortion cannon, something the Dominion had considered theoretical, compressed 3 war cruisers into twisted metal cubes mid-jump. The rest were gutted by hunter drones burrowing into engines, detonating from within. Across tactical feeds, I watched the slaughter unfold. Target elimination, 100%. A cold machine voice reported. Then the operation shifted to the next target. What broke me wasn't the destruction, it was the silence. The humans didn't cheer, didn't gloat. Their fury had hardened into something sharper, merciless. They weren't waging war anymore. They were carrying out judgment, not only against the Dominion, but against a galaxy that had let Earth bleed alone. Later, if time meant anything in the void, I spoke to one of their officers. Colonel Aaron Vale, middle-aged, streaks of gray. Through his beard, eyes hollow from weeks without rest. He looked at me with no hostility, only exhaustion. "You're Cale Draven." "The Observer." I managed a nod. "Still alive," he muttered, arms folded as his gaze drifted to the dark between stars. "You were on Ganymede?" "I heard it," I admitted. "I couldn't stop it." "I lost my sister there," he said. "Pregnant. 26, engineer. Wanted to build schools on Europa." I began, but his hand cut the words away. "Don't. Just watch." He gestured toward the wall projection next target. A Dominion listening post orbiting Alra's Prime, a fortress. Untouchable, they believed. Earth didn't send ships this time. They sent a virus.nano-code wrapped as a Dominion medical update, delivered by a disguised satellite drifting in debris. Within 4 minutes of activation, the station turned on itself. AI systems rebelled. Airlocks opened. Life support inverted. Doors sealed, no screams carried out, only silence. 0 survivors. Colonel Vale's eyes never left the feed. He exhaled. Smoke curling against the reinforced glass before fading into the hum of the ship. "Too far," he said quietly. "That line doesn't exist anymore. Not after Ganymede, not after Europa. Not after every silence from the so-called protectors of the galaxy, while our people screamed into the void." I didn't answer. Because he was right. The Dominion pulled the trigger, but the galaxy held its breath and watched. He tapped ash into a tray, eyes fixed on the starfield. "We're not building an empire, Cale. We don't want their thrones, their planets, their banners. This isn't conquest. It's a ledger." "A ledger?" I asked. Names, places, crimes, we're balancing it. And then the alarms sounded, not the blaring panic tones I knew from Dominion ships. This was different. Controlled. Precise. The humans moved instantly, their voices clipped and calm, every action already rehearsed. Another strike was about to begin. On the projection wall, 12 red markers glowed across a sector I knew well, the Raxian Verge, a Dominion stronghold, home to weapons foundries that had supplied 100 wars. Untouchable, the Council had once claimed. Reckoning Protocol, Phase 2. Cypher 9's voice cut in, smooth, indifferent. Authorization confirmed. Targets locked. Execution window, 6 minutes. Vale didn't even stand. He just watched. Raxian Verge. They fueled the bombs that burned Titan colonies. Now their debt comes due. The attack unfolded with terrifying elegance. Human strike groups appeared from nothing, emerging from folds in space no Dominion sensor had ever mapped. Cloaked carriers released swarms of drone fighters so small, they barely registered against cosmic dust. They slipped through shield grids like water through cracks. I watched as the foundries died. Precision rail slugs severed reactors. Drone clusters rewrote defense AIs, turning turrets inward. Supply freighters detonated one after another, a chain reaction across the sector. In less than 9 minutes, the Virgin Empire's pride was silent wreckage, target elimination, 100%. Cypher 9 again, calm as ever. The humans didn't celebrate. They logged the result, marked the next phase, and reset their systems for the following strike. I felt something twist inside me then. Fear, yes, but not just of their power. Fear of the void they carried inside. A silence deeper than space itself. Colonel Vale finally turned to me, eyes lit by the glow of burning worlds on the display. This is only the beginning. The Dominion wanted to break us. Now the galaxy will learn what a broken humanity looks like when it stops pretending to be civil. Do you want me to push the next section into showing how the neutral empires begin to panic, scrambling to distance themselves from the Dominion, but realizing Earth might come for them too? Slowly, that's the point. I waited, but he said nothing more. When he left, I stood alone in Thedark, watching the war unfold across dozens of screens. And deep inside, a part of me understood. Humanity had asked for peace, and the galaxy had responded with fire. Now Thephyr was coming back, and this time it wasn't to warm or warn. It was to burn of everything that stood by and watch them suffer. I didn't sleep much anymore. Not because I was afraid, though there were moments, but because I couldn't stop watching. From the observation deck of Retribution 1, Earth's vengeance was on full display across dozens of screens, all updated in real time. This wasn't war, it was systematic extinction. Controlled, calculated, and deliberately cold. The galaxy had never seen anything like it, and yet, the humans didn't cheer. There were no parades, no songs, just orders, confirmations, and silence. We reached the edges of the Herax system 2 days later. A Dominion-controlled territory populated by 3 colony moons, and a single military garrison on Herax Prime. Nothing special strategically, but it had a darker history. Ganymede's survivors had been traced to it. A convoy of escapees that had fled. The initial blast site had supposedly passed through there. They never made it to Earth. The last known transmission was intercepted by the Herax outpost. The signal was cut mid-sentence. When Earth's forces intercepted logs from the outpost, they learned what happened. The convoy hadn't just been ignored. It had been captured. Civilians were turned over to Dominion agents for questioning, meaning torture. Some were handed over to local militias to ease local tensions, which was the Dominion's code for sanctioned execution. Earth didn't say a word. They just moved. On approach to Herax Prime, Earth sent out a localized signal on open broadcast. To the Dominion garrison of Herax Prime, you participated in the erasure of our people. You turned away desperate. You watched them die. And so now you will watch your legacy burn. No quarter. The signal played once, then came the thunder. 10. Human dropships broke atmosphere at once, faster than anything the Dominion had ever clocked bear. Within 6 minutes, Orbital defenses were shattered. Their defense grid, once considered among the most advanced in the mid-sector, went dark. Earth had cracked its encryption with little more than a whisper. From Retribution 1, I saw the clouds. Over Hirax ignite, not with fire, but with disassembly. Orbital cannons mounted with antimatter warheads didn't strike targets. They struck the atmosphere itself, deconstructing it at a molecular level. Air turned to plasma. Skies melted into chaos. Trax Prime didn't just fall, it withered. They left the central command bunker intact, and then they landed. I was on the dropship with Colonel Vale. "You're letting me come?" I asked, surprised. "Ya want to see the truth?" he replied. "This is where it lives." The dropship doors opened over what was left of the outpost. The ground was scorched black. Twisted structures reached toward the gray sky like skeletons. Bodies, Dominion officers, soldiers, and civilians littered the streets. No looting, no random destruction. The destruction was surgical, terrifyingly so. We walked in silence towards the main garrison, surrounded by a dozen Terran soldiers. They wore black reactive armor, faceless, emotionless. Each carried rifles longer than my arm, and their fingers never left the triggers. Inside the command center, we found them. 3 Dominion commanders chained to their own chairs, bloodied, bruised, not dead. Colonel Vale approached without a word. He pulled a data chip from his jacket and slotted it into the main console. The screen lit up with intercepted footage. Ganymede Zervieves bound, screaming, being loaded into cells. One woman begging in galactic standard, "Please, my son is sick. We only want to reach home." Thefid showed one of the commanders now sitting before us, nodding casually and ordering her silence. The footage a Kanchun. Executions one by one in the queue. Snow outside the outpost. Smiles on the guards' faces. The woman's voice again, weak and fading. "Please, someone, Venzilence." Colonel Vale turned away from the screen and faced the commanders. "We gave the galaxy a chance," he said softly. "We asked to be left alone, and when they burned us, we asked again. Nicely, quietly." He stepped forward, kneeling so he was eye level with the middle commander. "You knew they weren't soldiers. You knew. They were just trying to get home. They were illegal refugees," the commander muttered through split lips. "Protocol?" Vale's pistol was in Hessian before the sentence finished. The shot echoed off the metal walls, blood splattering across the floor. The other 2 flinched but said nothing. "Protocol," Vale muttered. "That's what they always say when they want to feel clean." He holstered the weapon and turned to his men, finished them, then torched the bunker. We were back on the ship an hour later. I should have been sick. I should have protested. I'd lived my life on Theprames that justice and cruelty had to be separate things, but now I wasn't sure anymore. These weren't random slaughters. Every target Earth hit had earned it. That was the scariest part. This wasn't genocide. It was retribution. I was in my bunk later that cycle when a ping came through on my tablet. A private message encrypted, but not by Earth. It was from a contact back in Dominion space. An old friend, a fellow analyst. "Kyle, they're coming for the core worlds next. They've already wiped out 6 fleets. Entire council is in panic. There's talk of surrender. Full and conditional, but it may be too late." Attached was a file black box data from a ship destroyed in the Lyros Belt. It showed the aftermath of another Earth assault. No weapons, no screaming, just silence. A small Terran vessel had landed on the deck of a Dominion battleship during what was supposed to be a ceasefire inspection. The soldiers aboard it released a bioagent into their system, not a virus, not a plague. It made UC. Every single Dominion soldier began hallucinating within 30 seconds. Most collapsed, screaming in terror. Some clawed their own eyes out. A few shot themselves before whatever they were seeing could take hold. The humans never even fired a bullet. The Dominion had built a galaxy on fear, control, and technological dominance. Now Earth was using fear better than anyone. I walked the halls of retribution one after that, unable to shake what I'd seen. I passed a room with a glass wall. Inside, scientists and engineers hunched over a new kind of weapon. It pulsed with energy unlike anything I recognized. Behind it, I saw a quote, etched into the wall in Terran English. "We are not the monsters. We are what monsters fear." I didn't know what I was anymore. Observer, traitor, survivor. All I knew is this. The galaxy had poked the wrong species one too many times. And now it was bleeding. They used to say the core worlds were untouchable. That was the Dominion's pride. Its glimmering jewel planets, spaced across the galactic center, surrounded by asteroid belts, defense rings, and star-forged fortresses built from the remains of collapsed suns. The oldest civilization shrid there. Billions lived under the illusion of peace bought with silence and blood. No war had touched the core in over 3,000 years until Earth arrived. It began with static. Dominion communication started going dark. One relay station after another. No explosions, no confirmed kills, just eerie silence followed by deep void one every channel. The Council didn't panic at first. They assumed it was sabotage, internal disruption, maybe pirate interference. But Earth knew how to send a message. The first real sign of the reckoning came on Chirus Prime, administrative capital of the Inner Dominion. No weapons were fired. Instead, every screen on Theplanet lit up with a message in Terran Standard. White letters, black background. "We are not negotiating. You had your chance. This is not conquest. This is consequence." Then the city lights blinked off. Power grids failed. Gravity fluctuated. The artificial climate system began to collapse. By the time Dominion engineers attempted to respond, they discovered horrifying truth. Earth had been there for years. Microsatellites the size of grains of sand had been drifting through Dominion airspaces, slipping through filtration systems, embedding themselves in infrastructure. Every sensor, every camera, every data link. Earth hadn't just arrived. They had been watching the entire time. They knew where the commanders slept, where their children were sent for schooling, where escape pods were hidden, where the defense systems had blind spots, where the deep code kill switches were located. Here's Prime never stood a chance. No bombs were dropped, no soldiers deployed. Earth collapsed the planet from Thineside. I watched from the Operations Center on Retribution 1 as the Entericity crumbled in on itself. Glass towers folding like paper, Magiflina spiraling into flames. The sky itself tearing with overloaded atmospheric inerts. Death toll 2.8 million, no warning. No survivors. Even I, Kyla Dreven, once proud analyst of Dominion psychological ops, felt a chill that wouldn't leave me. This wasn't war. It was surgical annihilation. Colonel Vale stood beside me, his eyes locked on the screen, unblinking. They thought Earth's strength was in its numbers, he said. But it's not. I glanced at him. Then what is it? He didn't answer for a moment. Then he muttered, "It's that we don't forget, and we don't forgive." The next target was Vine 7, a diplomatic world known for hosting treaties, alliances, interstellar courts, neutral by every definition, except for one. After Ganymede, Dominion ships had passed through Vine space while transporting prisoners. Earth had sent requests, pleas for intervention sanctuary. The Vine High Tribunal declined. They cited neutrality. Their fused Earth's convoys asylum. Their silence condemned thousands to death. So Earth responded in kind. Retribution 1 didn't lead this assault. Another ship did. Judgment Dawn. Smaller, faster, less armored. But it wasn't there to fight. It was there to broadcast. From orbit, the ship used its deep penetration sonar fields to turn Vine's surface into a symphony of destruction. Buildings didn't explode, they vibrated themselves apart. High-pitched frequencies drove civilian Shinto seizures. Entire cities buckled from harmonic collapse. Brains rupture from the inside out. All streamed live. Earth didn't look away this time. And they made sure no one else could either. Thousands of systems across the galaxy were forced to watch. Earth's message played between each wave of devastation. You could have stopped it. You didn't, so now you don't get to stand behind your neutrality. The galactic community began to fracture. The Dominion had ruled for millennia with fear and control. But Earth wielded something far more dangerous, righteous rage. Empires that once backed the Dominion quietly pulled their fleets inward. Civil wars erupted in Fringa colonies as citizens began demanding reparations or cutting ties entirely. Entire trade alliances fell apart in hours. No one wanted to be Earth's next target. And Earth still said nothing. They weren't building coalitions. They weren't issuing demands. They were simply executing names on a list one by one. Back aboard Retribution 1, I started noticing a change. In the crew, they weren't tired. They weren't hesitant, but something in them was hollowing. There was a man named Reyes, one of the lead comms officers, a soft-spoken guy from what I gathered. I passed him one morning and asked how he was holding up. He looked at me, eyes sunken, voice dry, and said, "It doesn't feel like winning. It feels like burying ghosts." Later that same day, he blew his own brains out in the mess hall. No one spoke during the cleanup. No one needed to. That night, I reviewed old Dominion files, footage from Ganymede, surveillance, hidden reports from whistleblowers. It wasn't just bad. It was sickening. Executions streamed Levetto, elite Dominion clubs for entertainment. Children turned into experimental subjects by off-book science divisons. Earth had begged for assistance. The Dominion had made a show out of ignoringit. I saw one clip that stayed with me. A young girl, maybe 9 years old, clinging to her brother as Dominion soldiers tore him away. She kept screaming, "Please, he's all I have left." The camera cut out after that, and I knew why Colonel Vale no longer spoke about peace. By the end of that week, another core world fell. Stara, a world so proud it called itself the Voice of Order. Earth silenced it in 6 hours. They didn't use weapons this time either. They used memory. Every network on the planet was overridden with personal accounts. Voices from Earth, survivors of Ganymede, Europa, destroyed convoys, women weeping, men screaming, children whispering about festers they saw while floating in the cold. Zara's own population turned against its leaders. Riots erupted. Government buildings were overrun. Earth didn't need to fire a shot. They just reminded people what their silence had caused. Colonel Vale watched the chaos unfold from the bridge. "This isn't justice anymore," I said quietly. He turned to me. "No, then what is it?" His voice was calm. "Balance?" I realized then Earth didn't want to be the Dominion. They didn't want control. They wanted the scales to tip finally after centuries of bleeding dot, and if they had to burn every system that had once closed its eyes to do it, they would. A day later, a transmission came through from the Dominion Council. First contact in weeks. Their message, "We surrender unconditionally. Please stop." There was a pause on the bridge. Everyone turned to Colonel Vale. He stared at the screen for a long time before responding. "We heard you." Then he cut the feed. Earth wasn't interested in apologies. Not yet. Not until every ghost had been laid to rest. They surrendered unconditionally, fully, desperately. But Earth didn't stop. I was there standing on the bridge of Retribution, one when the message arrived from the Dominion Council, the highest ruling body in the galaxy, reduced to stammering diplomats and frightened bureaucrats begging for mercy. They had never shown to others. They even used the word please. Colonel Vale watched the message play in silence. I thought I saw something in his eyes. Maybe a flicker of conflict, but it disappeared as fast as it came. He turned to the communications officer, gave a single nod, and the message was deleted. Deleted, not archived, not stored for history. Earth didn't care about the words anymore. They cared about the dead. And they weren't done burying them yet. That cycle, we changed direction. The new target wasn't a Dominion military post or a core world. It wasn't even on any of the hit lists he'd seen projected on war room walls. It was something worse, something personal. Theta Vault 9, the place wasn't public. Not even most Dominion officials knew of it. But Earth had found it. Buried under a rogue moon, protected by gravitational warping fields and decoy satellites, Theta Vault 9 was one of the Dominion's most secure black sites. It was where secrets were hidden along with the people they wanted forgotten. And Ganymedes. Last children had been there. Earth had confirmation. Records taken from the wreckage of Stara's high command revealed that 12 children from Ganymede, originally listed as unaccounted for, had been captured alive during the colony purge. They were transferred to Theta Vault 9 for long-term intelligence. Value, translation, experiments. Colonel Vale didn't give a speech this time. He didn't need to. We dropped out of hyperspace 3 million km from the vault. No approach, no warm-up, just deployment. Earth used a weapon I hadn't seen before. A sphere, small, black, and silent. It was launched from the belly of Retribution 1, drifting toward the moon like a raindrop through space. When it made contact, it didn't explode. It whispered, a pulse. Spread from its core, silent, invisible to the naked eye. But every Dominion system it touched folded in on itself. Firewalls disintegrated. Defense platforms turned their guns inward. Artificial gravity reversed for 8 seconds and crushed every object not bolted to the floor. We landed 30 minutes later. I was allowed to join the boarding team again. Maybe they thought I'd seen enough by now that I wouldn't flinch. Maybe they wanted me to keep watching because that was my punishment, my slow transformation. The corridors of Theta Vault 9 were covered in shadows and smoke. The air smelled like burned oil and rotting flesh. We moved past dead guards, their expressions frozen in fear and pain, limbs contorted in impossible directions. Some had bitten off their own tongues, others clawed their own faces. Neural inversion field, one of the Terran officers said, scrambled. The fear centers of their brain made their survival instincts eat themselves alive. No pity in his voice, no disgust, just facts. We found the first child's body in a glass cell, small, thin, wrapped in synthetic blankets, eyes wide open, staring at nothing. Next to him, a wall covered in crayon drawings, planets, stars, a tall woman with Earth military insignia drawn on her chest. Amethyr figure, maybe someone who promised to come back for them. She never did. Colonel Vale stood in theaterway, fists clenched so tight his knuckles were white. His jaw trembled, but he said nothing. He moved to the next room and the next. 9 of the 12 children were confirmed dead. We found their records, autopsies, medical tests. Some were labeled non-viable. The remaining 3 missing. Files marked transferred to Project Ashglass. The location, Arkan's Wake. Another ghost. Another name that even I hadn't heard in my time working for the Dominion. Arkan's Wake was an abandoned edlinitary shell deep in the gravitational fields of a neutron star. It had been ruled uninhabitable. Decades ago, but Earth had already begun plotting the coordinates. Vale Tornado, his second in command, a grim-faced woman named Captain Neroland. Launch Black Spear Protocol, he said. She nodded. Full force, all of it. I later learned what Black Spear was. It wasn't just a mission. It was Judgment Incarnate. Earth's most elite soldiers, biologically enhanced, Cyberlin, trained from birth. These weren't the angry remnants of Earth's past wars. These were the new breed, purpose-built for vengeance. I returned to my quarters that night and sat staring